Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us at Digipub Week, presented by Pusha. This is an online chapter of our Digipub World Convention, India's first event dedicated to online publishers. We've been hosting it since 2017. To begin with, I would like to thank our sponsors, presenting partner Pusha, a market leader in ad revenue optimization, working with over 300 publishers, cloud security partner Akamai, technology partner Wintype, and associate partner Chartbeat. Now, introducing you to the moderator of the session, Dikshant Joshi. He is the Director of Publisher Development at Pusha. Once again, thank you everyone. Over to you, Dikshant.
Thanks a lot for that, Debashish. Great. So I'm happy that we are here talking about in this setup. We were just talking to the panelists that it would have been great if it could have been a physical event, but that's where COVID as a catalyst is acting, and the digital transformation is really moving at a different pace. So without further ado, we'll be speaking about reimagining the advertising technology for web publishers and how it is becoming more and more important for web publishers to stay more profitable in these times of digital transformation. So let's have a quick introduction of our esteemed panelists. So I'll go around the room. Ankit, over to you first.
Thanks, Dikshant. Hi, everybody. I'm Ankit Oberoi, co-founder and CEO at Pusha, where we help web publishers accelerate their ad revenue growth using our optimization platform. We're backed by Microsoft Ventures and today work with about 300 odd publishers and optimize about 6 billion impressions monthly. Some of our most renowned clients include names like Reddit, CNET, Mashable. I'm excited to be part of the panel today, mostly because I think the agenda and the topic today is very close to our heart and the mission of our company, where we truly believe that advertising is one big source of how publishers can essentially fuel the free web and allow billions of consumers to access the internet and all the content free of cost. So thank you for having me. Great.
Dinesh, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Dinesh Joshi. So I'm working with Jagran New Media Entity, and I'm as a head of monetization. That's all about.
Great. Thanks a lot for that, Dinesh. Rohit, over to you. Would love to hear more about you.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. My name is Rohit Chadda. I manage digital publishing business of Z Group, which covers around 20 brands across 12 languages. That's me.
Got it. Thank you, Rohit. Thank you for that. Sanjay, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sanjay Trehan. I have turned in the last 2 years a new media professional. I'm consulting with a few startups in the exciting domains of ad technology, in the OTT space, and in marketing automation. And before that, I worked with companies like HT Media, NDTV, Microsoft, and of course, the mecca of all, the Times Internet.
Got it. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Sanjay. Over to you, Shawnee.
Hi, everyone. Good to be part of Digipub. We have an association with this event, and we've been sponsors in the past, and we're seeing this come. It's good to see an event which is sort of oriented towards publishers. Just to give you a perspective, I look after Times Networks digital mandate, which is our television business. All the digital platforms and associated properties are managed by us. We're a top 5 ComScore stack publishing unit as a standalone, even separated from our bigger cousins, which is the Times Internet Limited. So I'm happy to be here. It's always good to be. I'm not a techie, but I'm quite excited to talk about monetization, and that's mostly been my background. Prior to this, I was with NDTV. I just as a segue inherited a great business which Sanjay actually started at NDTV. So I got to pick up the reins when Sanjay moved on, and so both of us had some contribution to that success. So back to you.
Great. All right. So without further ado, pandemic has been the hot topic overall. So just wanted to understand from different media companies here, probably the top media companies on the panel, How are you guys seeing pandemic as a catalyst for digital transformation and adoption? Basically, in terms of your digital assets, be it like your e-papers, websites, apps, etc. What kind of adoption increase have you seen in the last 6 months? So first, like I think we can have Dinesh go in for Jagran New Media.
So yeah, so if I say due to COVID, definitely it's a COVID time pandemic, customer behavior and preferred interaction has significantly changed, and I think they will be here to continue to shift. So beside incremental use of digital services, I believe it's here to stay. But definitely at the same time, we also decided to go for the paid subscription model for e-paper because we have seen a jump in traffic in the time of physical circulation of the newspaper impact led to a great surge in mobile traffic. So overall traffic, I guess more than 50% for Jagran across mobile app, web, and e-papers. So at the same time, we decided to go for the paid subscription model for e-paper, and in the mind of our loyal subscription users, for 200 editions we have as of now, for which we are charging rupees INR 59 per month, and yearly it's 249 rupees. No, it's yearly charges. Yeah. So trust me, we experienced a whopping increase in yearly subscription in the first quarter of which is still going crazy for users. On the mobile side, yes, we crossed 100 million story 2 months back, 3 months back, and during pandemic period. And for if you talk about eCPM, definitely it gone. It was not that part we used to see before pandemic, like before March. But yes, overall revenue kind of jumped for Jagran, especially in terms of direct sales and branded content.
Got that. Thank you for that. How does it look like for Z News and Z Media, Rohit?
So I think it's like Dinesh very rightly put it. For all content businesses, pandemic has done wonders to the user acquisition. However, when you look at the monetization side, depending on whether you're a subscription-based business or whether you're an ad revenue model-based business, you may or may not have seen the kind of growth that you've seen on the user growth side. However, I think what is very interesting and important is that even though lockdowns have opened, people have started moving out. In fact, we were talking about this before the panel discussion began as to how, when you move out now, it seems as if everything's normal, specifically in the bigger metros where it's actually an even bigger concern. But still, consumption hasn't fallen. And CPMs are on their way up again with the whole IPL starting, etc. So yeah, I think things are going well. We've actually done a lot during this time. Crossed over 200 million users, became second largest media group in the country. So yeah, can't complain. Things are going well. We also launched new products actually during the time. We saw that the growth in the OTT space was so high, and suddenly there was adoption of connected devices. And when we saw the adoption of connected devices, we decided, hey, we need to launch our flagship channels on these connected devices. So during the pandemic itself, we launched the Z News app on Android Fire TV Stick and on Android OS, Android TV OS. So and we've seen some very good numbers come from that.
That's kind of amazing, launching new products, and I'm sure the adoption must have even followed. Thanks a lot for that. So how does it look like for Times Now, Shawneel? I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
So I think what this came as quite an abrupt event, and it was a good time to do a little bit of a rethink on business as usual. Where are the opportunities which will pop up when this ends? Also, the first couple of months when everything slowed down, including our engagements with advertisers and things, that was a damn good chance to do housekeeping. So we spent most of April, May, June revitalizing our platforms, product stack, the tech stack, the ads, the ad tech stack as much as possible. And one of the interesting learnings, and this is probably for all the newsrooms, right? The content which we were putting out, we were chasing primarily numbers. Everyone's chasing this numbers kind of game for Comscore, Glory, and all. But when we realized during that chase, now you end up with value pages, where you're actually making money, and a lot of traffic on what I call vanity pages. Okay, they are just buffing your Comscore numbers and maybe gives you something to talk about when you quote your GA numbers, but absolutely no value. Lots and lots of effort. And maybe this was in space. This is where languages haven't caught up yet. And we would try publishing in multiple languages as all publishers, etc. So we did a lot of cleanup on that, and we've reimagined a monetization model, which is called on-page revenue. So we are trying to restructure our newsrooms and our efforts in delivering pages which have the maximum value, and trying to ensure that we capitalize on that and reduce the effort on just that, those pages which were just for Comscore and, 5 people in the company see it and feel happy about. So we spend a lot of time doing that. And I think we're seeing some good results there.
Got that. Sanjay, for you, given now you're a new media consultant, right? And I think this is a vision that you might have seen years and decades ago that probably this transformation would happen. How are you seeing this across the industry happening? We heard a lot from the different media companies in the country talking about that. But how do you see, as a third person across the industry, the pandemic and its impact on the overall growth of the digital transformation and adoption?
Right. In fact, you very well. This a day that I had dreamt of, but of course under different circumstances. I dreamt of a day when mainstream media would go digital, and everything will be led by digital. Not because one is a digital enthusiast for the sake of being. One is a digital enthusiast because the sheer efficiency, accountability, performance, and reach that digital medium brings. Traditional media late adopt, but I'm happy COVID has been a forcing function, and I'm seeing the digital transformation being accelerated across the media companies. Now companies have realized that if you do not embrace digital, you do not have a choice. You either embrace it or you fall apart. And right across the media industry, in digital publishing industry, and not only that, even in traditional corporates, we are seeing this kind of adoption. So this is a bit of a godsend, pun intended, but I wish it would have been in different circumstances.
Got it. So given we were speaking about how the adoption has increased and how the impact has been on revenue, so I think all of us here have either the digital assets as well, and to back it up, the panelists also have the traditional media, which is TV, print, newspapers, etc. Right? So are you guys seeing a shift from the consumption wise, both in terms of the users as well as the revenue coming in from the traditional media versus how it is shifting towards digital? Are you seeing that across Jagran New Media, Dinesh?
Yeah, of course. So I will start with I said in previously also in COVID pandemic, people stopped the physical newspaper subscription and went for online to their daily dose of news, right? Like TV, radio, print are among the traditional medium where users can target. You can target users, not that effective, even if you have the targeting user based on their demographic. So analyticals comes kind of handy, and the digital is a kind of real time analysis, via which you can have a lot of data, and as per that you can go as per your future planning and all. So if I can take the example of IPL matches, which is going on, so we used to watch on TV. So as of now, it's a kind of Hotstar. We are live matches. So last year, if I say in final matches, I guess 18.6 million concurrent users were there. And this year is kind of, we are predicting is going to be twice or maybe thrice times, because everybody at home and they're watching on mobile. So coming back to your question, so my straight answer is yes, definitely. A lot of programmatic shift have happened. Education, banking, entertainment, OTT, grocery, insurance have seen a rapid growth in digital. All these shifts happen online. and we were to all the user are kind of expenditure across all these areas. So I would like to comment that the eCPM rate went down as again, but as compared to online medium, but for direct and brand campaign, we have seen a very good increase in terms of eCPMs, and overall revenue definitely have increased from last 2 months. And at the same time, Jagran also launched self-help platform for SMEs where you can understand the power of digital platform and expand their brand across new internet audience. So that's another part Jagran launched 1 month back.
Got it. Got it. That's great to hear. So Rohit, for you guys as well, given you adopted like an OTT thing and also opening more sources like the Android TV, etc. Right? So that shift is happening, but on a more like a grander level, if you were to talk in terms of revenues for the company, is digital like really starting to contribute major chunks as compared to how the traditional revenues have been through the standard channels of media consumption?
So, I mean, I'll take an example what Dinesh was talking about. So he was talking about print, where obviously, so we saw a large move from print to digital. But when we look at the TV side, actually there was growth both on the digital consumption as well as on broadcast consumption, specifically when news is concerned. Now, what happened on the entertainment side was something completely different. Due to the lockdown, there was very little programming very little new programming that happened on the entertainment GEC side. So because of that, now people wanted new content. And when they wanted new entertainment content, where could they go to? I mean, they could only come to the OTT space. And hence you saw the large growth on the OTT space, specifically for the entertainment side. Now, earlier, I think our parents, who we would have never thought would actually, pick up the remote and watch a Netflix, and they would always go towards the traditional DTH or cable broadcast television, you would see much older generations also moving towards the OTT space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and that is what we decided that we should ride on. The fact that people are now more open to connected devices, and it's enabled them, and they've started learning more about the Amazon Fire TV sticks of the world, or they basically using the smart portion of the TV. Otherwise, I mean, they're basically just using the box, right? The set-top box. That's what they were using. So on the television side or on the broadcasting side, we saw consumption grow on both sides, digital as well as broadcast. Obviously, initially, since the economy was almost shut down, hence ad revenues were dropped again. But those have also now started picking up. In terms of contribution of digital towards the overall top line, obviously with the growth that we saw, the contribution has increased significantly. But yeah, I mean, so now as the economy is open, revenues are going up from both sides, both broadcast as well as digital.
Got it. Thank you for that. So Shanil, quickly, like, how's it at Times now as well? Because I think this is like a big debate going on, and I can see a lot of questions coming in as well, which is great. So we would love to answer. You could post your questions. We'll come to them. But Shanil, like, how's it like for
So, I'll give this a little bit more generic. I'll just talk about behavioral change is, what I'm seeing actually come front and center. I've worked in a couple of television networks running their digital mandates. So there's a lot of legacy and, effort put behind, what we put on television. And the television folks were very staunch in believing that was it. Okay, they were not that interested in extending onto digital. I've seen that switch on very quickly in the last 6 months. It was already sort of, coming of age last year, but I think that's got really accelerated. That everyone knows that their future is in the digital environment. The content creation machinery might remain the same, but clearly they have to now cater for different kinds of screens, different kinds of platforms, maybe a completely different kind of audience. And that's slowly seeping into the culture of the organization, which is actually what we need. because 2, 3, 4 years down the line, we all see our television businesses, becoming more and more challenging. Then my second point, which I've observed, between, recently, is a little bit of change in the thought process of, media companies and media owners and stakeholders. Earlier, digital was considered a promise for the future. Ki, theek hai, abhi we'll invest in this, we'll do digital publishing and all. Kabhi jaake, in the future, as our other businesses decline, this will become the money maker, or, which will extend the life of our business. And they would just keep investing. Okay, there was just, a blank check you had if you were running the digital mandate for a while, saying that, as long as you deliver audiences, it's fine. I think that has switched over a little bit, and now digital companies have to become more accountable to returning revenue. That promise of the future either didn't happen or is actually got pushed to, it's not the future anymore, it's right now. Please, if we invest in your business, we need returns right now. My last point just is an add-on to this also, that I believe that a well-run, tight, well-managed and structured digital business can now be extremely profitable. Okay, you don't have to, spend so much after a certain point, after your newsrooms are set up, after all your platforms are set up, to monetize your audiences better. So these are a couple of my, thoughts and perspectives of what I've seen in the last 4 to 6 months in this, in this quickly changing time.
Got it. So, Ankit, a question for you here. So, given it's an ever-evolving mad tech ecosystem, pun intended here, with the rapid pace at which the mad tech ecosystem is evolving, how do you see globally, given AdPushUp has a global perspective with respect to different media companies that you work with? So, how is AdPushUp looking at the media companies coping up with the instant changes with respect to the fast-paced industry that ad tech is, and monetization, of course, becomes a key aspect?
Absolutely. And I think, as Shanil said, right now, this is the time to actually give the returns, right? It is now that, these organizations, the digital part of the organizations have to return money and start becoming profitable and create ROI for the money which has been invested so far. The importance of ad technology, especially from a optimization and, a revenue generation standpoint, has really changed. And the last 1 year has been really interesting, where the playbooks have been completely rewritten. And trust me, the pandemic or COVID-19 has very little to do there, to be honest, when you talk about purely monetization or optimization, because that was the last, step. But even if you, sort of look at what has happened in the last 1 year in ad tech, whether that is the first party auction changes from Google, which was like a monumental change in how the auction is happening, towards, which is of course in favor of publishers on how the auction logic is being considered, to unified auction, and how the game has changed. This game for the last 5 years was always Google dominated, right? When you say ad tech, when you say programmatic revenue, it basically meant Google, right? And how that has changed with the evolution of pre-bid, right? Now it has become so open today, right? The pace has actually also sort of increased, right? It's actually increased quite a bit, because now with pre-bid and open source changes, coming out in open source repository, I think I was looking at the numbers in pre-bid alone, right? Which is now contributing 30, 40, 50% in publishers' programmatic revenue books today. You'd see that in the last 1 year alone, the adapters have grown from, I think it was about 60, 70 to 250 plus adapters. The ID, because of the, all the, identification challenges, the ID solutions have grown from, maybe 1 or 2 to 12, 13 ID modules, which are available in pre-bid today. Sellers.json has been an initiative which was very, very complex and complicated, including the S-chain, very important to bring transparency globally. It happened in the last 1 year. And, don't even get me started about all the privacy changes where, so much they were announced a while ago, but the actual implementation about IAB bringing TCF frameworks, or, the actual GDPR California issues getting implemented. And of course, the hot topic is cookie, right? All of this has really changed how the ad tech business has developed and made it much more complex than how it was maybe a year ago, right? And as we all know, cookie is one big subject, which everybody is also talking about, which is going to die in the near future, right?
Got it. As a follow-up, given I mentioned that you have a global view, how do you look at it from an India perspective? Because the audience would always have this, and of course, India is usually a market which follows the trends from the US. but how do you see it at an India level as well?
Yeah, so I think you're right. Globally, when it comes to ad technology, India has unfortunately not been a category creator but a follower, and we've typically in the past been 4 or 5 years behind. But I see that gap bridging and getting shorter every month. Today now, because again how global our whole economy on a macro level, as well as how connected technology is, when something gets launched in the US, right? Or when there is some sort of early adoption happening in the US, I can already see that some players, the early adopters in India, are also starting to do it. And especially, just like how pretty much how large markets behave, it happens with, new media organizations, etc. in India as well. So I think that gap has bridged a lot. There is still, and when you look at legacy businesses, there's still a considerable time, but I think India has come a long way in the last 3-4 years with respect to adoption. And we're not very, very different from how international markets behave today.
Got it. Got it. Given you were speaking about the cookie, I remember this conversation with Dinesh over the weekend, wherein he mentioned that Jagran New Media has taken a few initiatives around it, and the cookie apocalypse is just around the corner. And there have been loads of conversations now about first-party data versus third-party data, and all that conversations have popped up, which basically is more of an existential crisis for a lot of companies out there as well. But what is it that Jagran New Media is doing to counter the cookie apocalypse and the rise of the first-party cookie?
So yeah, so definitely we spoke last week. Yeah. So Jagran, definitely we have invested in first-party data strategy. So there's a kind of marry data between GA and Google Ad Manager audience bucketing. So that's a category-based targeting or a contextual keyword targeting. So merging GA and a DFP audience data is pretty solid case used for us. This is a part of what we do actually. Look into log level data extra. We had enabled log level data in a DFP kind of almost 1.5 years back, and we do analyze it for price prediction, floor pricing happening on that level. So we do that for implementations. For a targeting perspective, we can set up a category-based URL and keyword-based targeting. All are pretty straightforward use case for log level data. That's pretty good example for if you are targeting for a direct sales campaign. That's very handy for us. When it comes to indirect level targeting, as I mentioned, putting marrying between GA and DFP, and this also we can target floor pricing setup, like on the category basis or the geo basis targeting, or the you can say the handset which are that not leverage in the market, you can target at the handset category. So iPhone, you can target the higher eCPM prices, and then the geo basis where you can see the light 2G or 3G kind of stuff happening in the market. You can lower down the floor as per that addition. So collecting, that's the audience basis what we do. On the email basis also, we do a targeting on the email side. Though email address itself might not be a much use case unless we tied up email into log level data, which coming from admin at the DFE itself.
Got it. So quickly moving forward into the conversation. So I think one of the key things that at least I have noticed in the industry right now is, from a talent perspective, there is an abundance of the digital marketing and advertising talent. And I see a lot of questions in the chat box as well coming around talent, especially the tech talent, right? So Shawnee, there's a question directly for you, which is like, are publishers guilty of not investing enough in their tech teams? All we talk about is content and sales team. The real stars are the CTOs. Would you agree to that? That's the question.
So,
I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a different philosophy. I think every publisher, thinks differently. Even within our group, there are publishing units which are more product tech oriented. I'll give you my perspective. Okay, I come from monetizing. Okay, the end result of any business is to make money and show profitability. So the sense we're getting now, compared to 10 years back, is most of the tech is available off the shelf. Okay, and nothing against techies, but you can incubate a lot of techies in your company. They love building, they love creating, and they'll keep at it. Okay, they'll always have 50 things on their to-do list, and it's never ending. But I think just to give you comparisons, a direct competitor of ours, in fact, my previous company has 80 tech people. Okay, I have 8. uh, all the tech is available off the shelf. Okay. And let the techies and let the tech companies make the tech for you, right? Why do you want to do it yourself? Publisher tech has never been great. Okay. You go anywhere in the world and everyone has tried to do tech, but, and actually that's the weak link, even in the ad tech ecosystem, the publishers lose because they're not great at tech, because it's mostly a tech value chain. So I'm just mixing 2 points, but to answer that question, I don't think publishers in now or going forward, we need tech. Okay, we can't survive without tech because that's the foundation of everything. But you do not have to be adventurous with tech. You should not, the biggest examples of money spent fruitlessly in the publishing world has been in tech. Okay, it's better to spend on content and content creators and build your content capabilities and let someone else do the tech work. I don't know if I've answered that question, but this is primarily my opinion. This doesn't cover everywhere.
Got that. Got that. So, question for Sanjay here. Given Sanjay, you've been in the industry for a lot of time. You saw this industry evolving, right? Of course, the talent evolving with it as well. So, given talent is a key aspect, and like I said, the digital advertising and digital marketing talent in India is in abundance. But when we talk about the supply side ad tech ecosystem talent, there's a very limited pool, both in terms of the ad sales folks or the tech folks or even the ad operations folks. So how do you see that evolving over the years, or how big of a challenge is that as of now across various media organizations that you work with, and your purview about that?
Okay, so since I'm now actively involved with the startup world for the last 2 years, within the startup world, in my domain, I've seen there's an abundance of talent. But in traditional media companies which are looking at reinventing themselves, there is clearly a lot of upskilling that is required. Now, if you look at it, the way the advertising technology landscape is spanning, one has to understand that it is not getting limited only to advertising technology. Because when you are reimagining advertising technology, you have to ensure that advertising technology marries and cohabits with the core marketing function, because ultimately it has to deliver on a certain marketing KPIs. It has to look at how it can harness and enhance the content appeal. And most importantly, as Sunil alluded to, it has to serve a specific business objective. So this is a pretty evolving field, and a lot of plugins need to happen. Is the current Indian ad talent ready for this kind of a widespread, body of knowledge? I'm not very sure. So yes, talent is a bit of an issue. Specifically in the mainstream media companies, in the startup world, I'm noticing a lot of young people have very quickly adapted to this and are upskilling themselves. There is enough knowledge out there in the world, but we need to look at the complete gamut of the scale of technology that needs to be deployed. Taking you back, Dikshant, to your previous question, because it has a bearing on what you asked. It's the build versus buy is a classical argument, and my belief is, and I've always been a supporter of the buy argument, for the simple reason that you have to understand the holy grail of internet. The holy grail of internet is about leveraging the ecosystem effect. It is not about becoming a gatekeeper of one specific, technology. So the leveraging of the internet ecosystem is dependent on how do you harness each other competencies, how you draw scale from the competencies that are not available with you, but with somebody else. So I've always been in the favor of buy argument, because technology gets obsolete very, very rapidly. And the job is, you need to let the specialists do your job. And as Shonil said, for media companies, they are content specialists. They need to focus on developing differentiated content, developing multimedia content, exclusive content, content which will build traction and engagement. And that would lead to another segue, which is not a subject for this topic, which is only once they are able to create compelling content, will be able to ask for subscription monies, initially, which what Dinesh talked about. Currently, media companies are jumping the gun. They want to monetize, but are they offering differentiated content? I mean, look at the quality of content of New York Times and Wall Street Journal and The Guardian. I mean, we are nowhere comparable to that. We are in a mad race to publish Me Too content, commoditized content. To some extent, the Indian OTTs are now doing a good job, especially in the language space, including Z. And I think that's a step in the right direction.
Got that. Rohit, so
I'd
I
like to
think...
jump in, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you ask a question, I'd like to jump in because a couple of things that Sanjay said, Shonil said, they're so related, right? You're asking about talent not being available on the ad tech side, and then very rightly Ankit said that up till a few years back, what was the meaning of ad tech? Ad tech meant Google, right? Nobody had to do anything. Brings me to the same point that Shonil was mentioning, right? That you create content, don't worry about technology. And that's why Google became Google, right? And that's the reason why, because everybody in India was just worrying about spending the monies. They had a place to spend the money, and they had, which is Google again. And hence there's no ad tech talent, right? Because of the attitude of, what we have, we'll buy, and we don't need to build. Now, very fair points. Sanjay mentioned very fair points about, creating good content, creating the right kind of content, which is obviously the most important thing at the end of the day. You are a content company. But then again, would depend a lot on the vision that you have. That is what I think would determine whether and how much would you want to invest in technology. But I'm of a different opinion here that, of course, you need to leverage the ecosystem. Of course, you can't build everything. That's obviously not possible. If you want to run fast, then that's obviously not possible. You need to plug in things that are readily available, and you need to realize where you can create something which will add more value to what is available out there in the market. Right? You need to identify your strengths and accordingly invest your efforts in those directions. But yeah, ironically, it's all linked. Again, on the cookies side as well that Dinesh was talking about. Right? So now it's a time where you need to own the user. And how do you own the user if you're just focusing on creating content? I mean, when you want to own the user, then there needs to be more that you need to do about it. You just can't be happy with guest users. That's going to be a thing of the past very, very quickly. So, yeah, interesting conversation.
Got it.
I can't come to a conclusion, but
so
yeah.
I have a question for Ankit now. Given Ankit, by the end of the day, as a company, AdPushUp also exists with the same talent pool access as well, which is basically being trained or whatever you're doing within the company to have the same talent pool. What is so different about AdPushUp here that the ad tech talent that you're working with versus the industry? Because if I look at it, the talent pool is pretty much the same, but it definitely plays an important role in terms of how the ad tech side of things really work for the ecosystem.
Right. So I think Rohit actually put it very beautifully, where he said how ad tech, we always thought, we'll probably outsource, and while there was no solution providers apart from Google. So I think in a way, what has happened is, we also, as a company, we tried to look at the strengths and weaknesses of media companies. And of course, you have a few exceptions where some large media houses or, a few here and there would invest in technology, but majority of them will also do their SWOT analysis and figure out that, our strength is essentially creating content and let us focus on that, which I think, everybody has their separate play and nothing bad about it. But in that process, because in this industry, we saw that, the jury, the judge and executioner, all was Google, right? We saw that as an opportunity and realized what can we do, right, in the market. And the next step was, finding talent, which was, while we have so much technology challenge, I think one of the differences, in ad tech, a lot of people look at it two ways. Either they just look at tech with the lack of understanding of what advertising, the ecosystem, the industry requires in technology. Or when you look at ad tech, people always just forget the technology and look at it purely from a demand supply standpoint, right? Which is just a demand supply game of getting demand and finding advertisers and supply. I think marrying both of these together is where, we find the major challenge of not having talent, because it requires a combination of an understanding of programmatic sales. It requires an understanding of programmatic ad operations. At the same time, having a deep understanding of technology functioning, whether that's your JavaScript or the cookies of the world. And I think the ecosystem is, of course, and that's, that perfect mix doesn't exist, which is a challenge which media companies also face. And more so because they are not only competing, you are focusing for profitability, but there are so many funded startups today who have like bottomless bank accounts, right? They'll give 5 times more money to the candidates which we are chasing. So I think that's all of this put together. We see that, some media houses focusing on their strengths, whether that is content creation or, as Rohit said, finding out that unique positioning where you can go and dominate that opportunity with a technical strength. Our opinion is, that it's a growing market where ad tech existed 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Now we're having a lot more talent, but finding all these 3 aspects in the talent today is extremely rare, if possible at all. And you have to make compromises, you have to train and encourage. So I think your onboarding systems of getting this talent on board and really nurturing and training them on the areas where they play a much crucial role or important role than actually just finding the talent. So you'd look for more of aptitude, if that answered the question.
Got it. Cool. So I think in the interest of time, let's take a few questions from the audience. I did take one in the mix, but at the same time, I think one interesting question that is coming in is that physical newspapers are slim now and losing weight every day. Is it going to die soon? So I think that question is a perfect fit for Dinesh. Dinesh, would you like to take it up? You're not audible.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Can you repeat, Dikshan?
Sure. So the question says that physical newspapers are very slim now and losing weight every day. Is it going to die soon?
Oh, no, definitely. So every like print, they have their respect, and radio and digital have their respect. So if you are a kind of a big fan of a newspaper, you're going to read newspaper on a daily basis, definitely. So digital is on handy thing, because in digital is a real time factual, or you can see anything is coming on the real time basis. On the newspaper, every morning, like me, I'm a kind of a hardcore newspaper fan. So every morning I need a newspaper to read and go through it. So having said that, yes, the weightage he's talking about, it should be more into news. So definitely, as of now, if I say of the COVID times, we haven't seen much. In last 4 or 5 months, we haven't seen much advertisement. That's the way he's talking about, maybe the size and the weightage of newspaper.
Got it.
But definitely, in the coming terms, on September itself, we have seen we are back on track, and we have seen a great number of advertising. Maybe it's auto, or they are spending a great number of advertising, and I've also seen that I guess auto sectors are definitely going good way. Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense.
I want to make a quick point on this, because this is a very pivotal subject, a very quick point.
Sure.
My take is that newspapers are not going to die, but they're definitely going to see a plateauing of their readership. And the reason they're going to do that is that they have not adapted to the demands of the millennium generation. So they need to make themselves more relevant to the new generation. And also, where I disagree with Dinesh is that they do not have to focus on more news, because of the very news cycle that they are in. They become dated the moment they reach the hand of the consumer. The news is dated because they are operating in an 8 to 12 hour cycle. On the other hand, I have a very radical solution to offer, which is the view I've been holding close to my heart for almost 5 to 6 years. Newspapers have to become what I call as newspaper, because they don't have to cover the hyper-local news or local news, because that is covered by the digital media so well that I don't want to know if there's an accident in a particular colony, and I don't want a newspaper to tell me that. I want to get a perspective, an in-depth analysis on the events that are matter to me. And I want to get the credibility that a newspaper brings in. So because of that reason, if they're able to quickly look at the content mix and focus more on analysis, they are going to find more takers. Another reason why newspapers are not going to die is because reading a newspaper is an aspirational habit which is associated with the emergence and the rise of middle class in India. As long as the middle class is rising, reading newspaper is still a habit and is seen and is associated with some kind of an aspirational value. So essentially because of those two reasons, I don't think, but yes, seriously, they're facing a threat.
Got that. Got that. So I think in the interest of time, one last question for Shonil here, which is like, what can tech teams at the publishers end do to optimize their sites for the programmatic funnel? Is there a way to fine tune their sites in a way that makes them better able to attract relevant ads from the web?
So, now all websites, with two parts to this, that, all websites are governed by a bunch of rules. Yeah, most of our businesses are oriented around search traffic. Okay, we get 10-20% through direct, but a lot of the incoming traffic is through search. I'm primarily talking about news sites. Because of SEO rules and norms, pretty much every site looks the same. Okay, or they follow the same set of guidelines, which are quite exhaustive. And so, there's not too much wiggle room to, everyone's tech is at par. I won't say, we're all using similar tech. The microseconds in which the pages get delivered, pretty much everyone's at that same level, because that becomes a prerequisite for you to show up on Google search. My fundamental ask from the ad tech world is something we've been talking about for a long time. This model is slightly broken when you're on the publisher side, because we spend a lot of money in investing editor salaries and all in generating that content. The perfect model would be that, from the content I generate in the pages and users I have, I at least should be able to pay for my newsroom. But I doubt if there's any newsroom in the country which is achieving that, okay? Because the value chain depletes a lot from the time the advertiser pays. So in a nutshell, what my ask from the ad tech industry is that we need some ad tech to now operate on the publisher side. Basically to make publishers win in this, in this value chain. Till now, 99% of all ad tech is for the buying side. Okay, it's for the advertiser side. That has messed up the equation, because advertisers just looking for efficiency. Saste mein lo, get as much buy in bulk. Because of all these reasons, the ad model has collapsed. And the prices haven't gone up. The ad tech has just made it more and more efficient for people to get this, premium inventory at a more sasta rate. Why would he ever pay more? And, all these things historically have sort of eroded the whole model, and it's on the verge of collapsing. Okay, if the print businesses and the TV businesses weren't paying the salaries, I doubt if many digital businesses could stand on their on-platform revenue. So they're all trying other revenue lines. It's a syndication kar lo, e-commerce ko supplier ban jao. They are affiliate and things like that. So, which is not our core business. Our core business is to monetize on platform. So this is, in a nutshell, my closing statement on this, that we need ad tech to now either stay in the middle and play on both sides equally, or sort of maybe 2-3 years build benefits on the publisher side, where in the value transactions the publishers get a better ROI. Let me put it that way.
Got that. So I think that opens up a great conversation with Ankit here in itself, because that's what Ad Pushup really does. So Ankit,
I heard him say that initially that they are more oriented towards publishers, and I think that was one of my reasons for leading him for this.
No, we're a pub side company only, and I think when we started out, that was one of the things which we thought, like there's so much technology coming out of ad tech. But I think, Shonil, I feel it's a catch-22. What happens is you see today all the new technologies, machine learning, AI, all of this. The first thing problem they want to solve is how can we reduce the buy, right? How can we reduce the cost of user acquisition, so which has a direct result in what revenue publishers make. I think it's a combination. We've been existing in the market for about 6 years now, and one of the things which we see, it's a catch-22. It's also that because we operate in a capitalistic environment where all this technology is going more towards people who have buying budget. So I've seen generally that for publishers, because they're anyway it's sometimes in fact generally more stressed financial budgets, publishers don't tend to invest as much in technology as an advertiser would, right? And that probably creates this whole challenge of less technology being built for publishers itself, right?
Yeah.
So while there's less competition in the market, but I think all these new fancy technologies, you're right, the first thing they go to put on is how do we, help an advertiser reduce their cost of acquisition or impression.
Got it. Got it.
Also, we haven't helped the ecosystem, right? We've also created so much supply also, that's also the other part of it, because, competing with each other, and, as the prices go down, let's generate more users and page views, and that became the norm. So now I think there's a demand supply gap also, which is now part of our existence. But anyway,
true.
Yep.
It makes it more fun.
Definitely. So I think, Rohit, one last thing for you, and we'll wrap this Q&A as well. So somebody says here that is Z Points or Times Prime system a step in strengthening the first party data collection? How useful has that approach been?
Well, most definitely. And actually, this is a direct reference to, or seems to be a direct outcome of the discussion that we were earlier having with Shawneel, or the comments that I was making with Shawneel and Sanjay, that there are some things that you need to build. There are some investments that you have to make on the technology side, because you eventually need to differentiate yourselves. Otherwise, as Shawneel puts it, right, very rightly, that all of these sites are so similar, right? I mean, so how do you, they're all doing the same kind of things because everybody's running after Google for traffic and all that jazz. So hence, you obviously need to do something differently. And that's what both these initiatives are, the Times as well as ours. And yes, it is for us to help acquire users, understand user behavior, and then utilize that data so as to better personalize the user's experience, as well as monetize the user better. I think these are things that we all know about. And it's been early days for us. I can't talk about Times. It's been early days for us. It is looking up. It looks pretty good and pretty promising from where we are right now. And that's what I can say about it. Times has been doing this for a while, as far as I know. I think 2009 or 2008 or something like that. So it's been more than 10 years. The Times has been trying to get this right. Let's hope we don't take so long.
Yeah.
to get
No,
it right.
it's a tough game, yeah. First party data. We've been at it for a very, very long time. You rightly said, but yeah, it's not, sort of reached that sweet spot yet.
Got it. Great. So I think it was an intense discussion which covered a lot of conversation, right from the technology aspect to the talent aspect to whether to buy or build. I would like to thank all the panelists for taking out the time and speaking out their thoughts out loud and sharing what they are doing in this pandemic in terms of the digital transformation. So thanks a lot, guys, for your time. And thank you, audience, for being there. Tomorrow we have another session at 4 p.m. See you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.